Our top story check takes us today to Puerto Rico, where government seeks to speed up disbursement of funds for recovery after Maria and now after Hurricane Fiona. Our Francis Felix has more on how they plan to make it happen.
Governor Pedro Pierluisi showed Congressman Bruce Westerman from Arkansas and Tim Kaine from Virginia the damage caused by Hurricane Fiona on the island. Westerman was invited by the resident commissioner in Washington, Jennifer Gonzalez, who participated in the tour, and Kaine by the governor. Westerman is the leader of the Republican delegation on the House Committee on Natural Resources. This is the committee in charge of Puerto Rico affairs, while Kaine is part of the Senate Armed Forces Commission that supervises the work of the Corps of Engineers in Puerto Rico. The group visited the bridge over the Negua River, located on the PR-1 highway in Salinas. The bridge collapsed and knocked down part of the power lines. For this river, there was an allocation of $60 million to begin studies and channeling plans. But after Fiona, it is estimated that the project will cost an additional $250 million, which must be assigned to the Corps of Engineers. Salinas Major Caroline Bonilla indicated that the work on the Negua River is a priority because once this flood control project is completed, more than 3,500 families will leave that risk zone. Kaine said that knowing firsthand the damage, Congress can send the necessary help. Westerman showed his solidarity with the Puerto Rican people by being hit in a short time by two hurricanes. Reporting from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Francis Felix.
All right, thanks so much, Francis. In the meantime, in Cuba, just 2 hours from the capital of Havana, visitors would normally find a distinctly agricultural landscape of valleys where farmers grow high-quality tobacco for the iconic Cuban cigar. But more than 1 week after the tobacco industry took a direct hit from Category 3 Hurricane Ian, the region is still without power and is growing in frustration among farmers, a mood that contradicts the government's narrative that the island is returning to normal. In Pinar del Rio, farmers would be planting the next tobacco crop, but instead they're trying to find shelter and care for their family. Their tobacco fields and livelihoods shredded by Hurricane Ian. Patrick Altman reports.
The further west you go from Havana, the worse the damage gets. Hurricane Ian plowed into rural Pinar del Rio province as a Category 3 storm. Days later, people carry their rain-soaked mattresses to dry in the sun. Pieces of someone's roof still hangs from a tree. Some residents have that far-away look, unable to believe their eyes. This is what tobacco grower Hiroshi Robina's farm looked like the last time we visited him. After Ian, Hiroshi Robina's farm is unrecognizable. Here we've lost everything, he says. All the infrastructure to produce tobacco has been destroyed. There's no house to dry the tobacco or the warehouse. Nothing. There's nothing left. Hurricanes are part of life in Cuba. But residents here say Ian developed so quickly they did not have time to prepare. Hiroshi's just telling me that his grandfather, Alejandro, one of the most famous tobacco growers in Cuban history, built this tobacco curing house in 1944. It survived every hurricane up until now. Ian knocked out Cuba's already weakened electrical grid, the first time a storm has taken down power for the entire island. Frustrated by the blackouts, protests have broken out. Ileana tells me she has gone for 6 days without power and wants solutions, not explanations from officials. After days and days without power, the situation in this neighborhood is now boiled over. People have come out to the street to protest, yelling Libertad, freedom. Counter-protesters have now come in and they're yelling Viva Fidel, long live Fidel Castro. Cuba's president called the protests illegitimate and said that officials were working around the clock to restore power. Getting the lights back on in hard-hit Pinar del Rio could take weeks or months, officials say. This is the region where much of the tobacco that is rolled into Cuba's famed cigars is grown. Hiroshi says usually he would be planning now for the upcoming harvest. Plans wrecked by Ian. I don't think there's going to be a harvest, he says. It's unfortunate, but it's going to take months to clean this up and months to rebuild. As a fifth-generation tobacco grower, Hiroshi says he has no choice but to start from scratch. But many here who have been knocked down by the storm may never get back up. Patrick Ottman, CNN, Pinar del Rio Province, Cuba.
And switching gears now, Bahamians will soon see an increase in their electricity bills, and it comes as rising inflation is already hitting pocketbooks pretty hard. Our One Caribbean News' Deandra Hamilton reports.
Starting next month, Bahamians will see at least a $20 increase on their electricity bills as the state-owned company Bahamas Power and Light, BPL, will increase its fuel surcharge. Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Brave Davis, made the announcement at a special press conference on Tuesday, October 4th.
BPL is announcing an increase in the monthly fuel charge. For a large majority of BPL customers who consume less than 800 kilowatt hours, the fuel charge is being increased by 2 cents per kilowatt hour, which will result in an increase this quarter of less than $20 per month.
Davis said the government could not postpone the increase any longer as it had been delayed for several months. The increase comes at a time when Bahamians are struggling with the rising inflation, among other issues. However, in an effort to help cushion the effects of the increase for the more than 100,000 BPL customers, the Prime Minister said VAT on electricity bills will be adjusted.
We'll increase the VAT ceiling from $300 to $400. So going forward, no VAT will be due on any electricity bills under $400.
What might be good news for some is that Davis said the increase will be temporary as BPL anticipates that fuel charges should decrease over a year.
Over the next 4 quarters, BPL calculates that the fuel charge will begin to come down.
The Bahamian government is also working on long-term solutions to help reduce the cost of electricity for its people.
The launch of a 60-megawatt solar farm in New Providence in the next 12 months means that approximately 25 to 30% of the island's electricity needs will come from solar, resulting in less expensive, cleaner energy for residents.
Deandra Hamilton reporting.
All right, thanks for that report, Deandra. We'll now do an update to a story we've been following out of the Turks and Caicos involving the death of an American tourist and local tour guide due to what officials are calling a gang attack. The tourist has been identified as Kent Carter, the vice president of Arlington, Virginia's National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP branch. Carter was in the car with another tourist and 3 local tour guides returning from an excursion while on vacation in the Turks and Caicos on Sunday. That's when the car was attacked. Carter and a TCI local tour guide were killed as a result. According to CNN, police think the attack was targeted and carried out by armed gang members, saying, in quote, "This violence is linked to drug supply and is fueled by revenge, turf wars, and retribution." Well, meantime, heavy rainfall associated with the passing of a tropical wave on Wednesday caused severe flash flooding across many parts of the east-west corridor of Trinidad and Tobago. 1 death has been recorded in northeast Trinidad as a woman was swept away by floodwaters. In its hazard impact summary statement released on Wednesday afternoon, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management indicated that there have been at least 48 reports of street and residential floodings in Trinidad. The adverse weather also caused the early dismissal of schools across the country. And in Tobago, there were over 50 reports of landslides, while 3 families were relocated as a result of the effects of heavy rainfalls. Meanwhile, Director of Tobago Emergency Management Agency Alan Stewart reiterated that further rainfall is expected. Several areas, including the capital of Tobago, experienced flash flooding, while there were also incidents of fallen trees.
This is not yet over, and therefore there is a strong possibility that there will be additional land slippage. There is slope instability at this time as a result of the incessant rainfall that we would have had over a lengthy period. There is also an anticipation based on the information that we receive from the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service that we can anticipate an addition of over 30 millimeters of rainfall. You know what 50 millimeters of rainfall did in 2004. All of us can remember that. So we can anticipate that, so we need to prepare for that as well.